Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to unpack the USS Harry S. Truman's recent deployment. It's been, well, quite something.
It really has. A lot going on with that carrier strike group.
Yeah, and we've gathered info from, all over discussions online, Navy Times, Stars and Stripes, even think tank analysis and historical stuff.
Right. The aim is to get beyond just the headlines,
Yeah.
Give a fuller picture.
Exactly. A well-rounded view of what the Truman's been up to recently and sort of historically.
So where do we start the departure?
Okay, yeah. So she left Norfolk, her home port, back on September 23rd, 2024.
And the initial plan was Europe, right? The Sixth Fleet Zone.
That was the plan. Yeah, Europe and Africa, basically.
Yeah.
But things didn't quite stay that way.
No, these deployments can change on a dime, can't they? Regional instability, it often dictates things.
Precisely. So because things were heating up in the Middle East, the Truman got diverted.
Into the Fifth Fleet's area of responsibility. That's the Middle East.
Happened around December. And that's really when this deployment took a different turn. Intensity ramped up.
Yeah, the focus shifted heavily to the Red Sea. Dealing with the Houthi threat to shipping, that was Operation Rough Rider.
And it wasn't just a short stint either. Her time there kept getting extended.
Right. We saw those reports, even into May this year, saying, stay another week. Kept happening.
It really shows the pressure, the need for that constant presence there.
Definitely. And for a while, there were actually 2 U.S. carriers in the Middle East. That's a huge commitment.
Sends a message, for sure, but also, like you said, strains resources, strains the sailors.
Absolutely. That human element is so important.
So a main job was countering those Houthi attacks on ships. Then we had President Trump announcing a ceasefire May 6th.
Yeah, citing the Houthis were sort of unwilling to keep fighting, according to the reports.
But even with that statement, the Truman stayed alongside the USS Carl Vinson for a bit.
Which suggests, the underlying situation maybe wasn't fully resolved. Keep that presence strong. Maritime security.
Okay, so fast forward a bit. The Truman eventually transited the Suez Canal, heading north.
And that brings us pretty much up to date. Now she's in the Mediterranean.
Participating in a NATO exercise, Neptune Strike, it really shows the flexibility, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Going from, intense operations in the Red Sea straight into a big multinational drill, that's capability.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing. This deployment had some serious incidents.
Yeah, unfortunately. There were losses.
3 FA-18 Super Hornets were lost. Those are key aircraft.
And incredibly expensive. Sources were mentioning around $60 million each. That's significant.
Financially, yes, but also operationally. And the risk to the pilots.
Well, in one case, with the arresting cable failing on deck, that system that catches the jets, the FA-18 went overboard, but thankfully, the pilots ejected and were rescued.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. Shows the safety drills work.
It does, but still a major incident.
And then there was the collision, February 2025, near the Suez Canal.
Right, with a commercial bulk carrier. The Truman took some damage, reportedly light damage, but still.
Big consequences, though. It led to the commanding officer, Captain David Snowden, being relieved of command.
Loss of confidence was the official reason cited. Captain Christopher Hill took over temporarily. Shows the Navy takes command accountability very seriously.
Definitely. But despite these setbacks, the operational tempo was just, wow.
The numbers are pretty staggering, aren't they?
Something like 670 strike sorties flown. And they intercepted about 160 enemy drones and missiles, mostly in the Red Sea.
Just relentless activity. And then there was that major airstrike report.
Yes. The one described as potentially the largest airstrike in the history of the world from a carrier against ISIS fighters near Somalia.
Yeah, reports mentioned something like 125,000 pounds of munitions dropped. That's massive.
It connects to what we've heard about U.S. Africa Command stepping up strikes against ISIS in Somalia, which apparently has been growing there.
So the Truman was playing a direct role in that wider counterterrorism effort, too.
Exactly. It shows how these carrier groups tackle multiple threats simultaneously, projecting power against state-backed groups like the Houthis, but also non-state actors like ISIS.
That dual-role offensive power projection and ensuring sea control, freedom of navigation, that's core to what a carrier does.
Okay, let's maybe zoom out a bit. Talk about the ship itself, the USS Harry S. Truman.
Good idea. Give some context.
She's the 8th Nimitz-class carrier. That class has really been the backbone of the fleet for, decades now.
Named after President Truman, the 33rd president. Laid down in 93, commissioned in 98.
So she's got over 25 years of service under her belt.
And her history is deeply intertwined with the regions she was just operating in. Her very first deployment back in 2000.
Where did she go?
Straight to the 5th and 6th Fleet areas. supporting Operation Southern Watch over Iraq.
Oh, wow. So same waters, different operations over the decades.
Exactly. And she was there for the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, launching initial strikes. Been involved in the global war on terrorism throughout.
It really underscores her long-term role in, America's global security posture.
But looking at that long history, and especially these recent extended deployments, it also highlights the wear and tear.
On the ship itself, the maintenance cycles.
And crucially, on the people, the sailors and their families. These long, high-tempo deployments take a toll. That's a constant balancing act to the Navy.
Absolutely. Maintaining readiness versus the human cost. And the strategic piece, too, having one or sometimes two carriers parked in the Middle East sends a huge signal.
It's the ultimate symbol of power projection and commitment. But as we discussed, it comes with significant costs and strains on the force structure.
It's a complex equation.
Very much so.
So wrapping things up on the Truman's recent deployment, it was undeniably eventful. From the rerouting to the Red Sea combat, that huge Somalia strike, the incidents.
It really captures the dynamic, unpredictable nature of naval operations today.
And placing that within her long history as a Nimitz carrier just reinforces how vital these platforms still are.
Despite all the challenges, they remain central to projecting power and maintaining stability, or trying to, in volatile regions.
So here's something to think about for you listening. When you look at this intense deployment and the Truman's whole service history, what does it really tell us about how the role of aircraft carriers might be changing or staying the same in the 21st century?
And maybe also, what are the long-term effects of pushing these ships, and importantly their crews, this hard for so long? What does that mean down the road?
Definitely something to ponder. Before we sign off, just want to say a massive thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, we really appreciate you tuning in.
And if you found this interesting or helpful, please do us a favor, like the video, share it, leave a comment, maybe subscribe or join the channel.
It genuinely helps us grow and lets us keep making content like this.
Thanks again, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.